Okay, let's review and reintroduce. We started Masechta. We said there's something called kinuyim. There's ikaneder, there's kinuyim, and there's yadais. Yad, we said, it's like holding onto the pot, the handle, and if you say that lashon, it schleps it along. Our Mishnah went ahead and explained what they are. I make a vow from you, I'm distanced from you, and whatever I eat from you, that's a yad. The Gemara asked, where do you know yadas from? Where does such a thing exist? And the Gemara brought a hekesh. Ish kiyida neder, ish kiyafli lindo neder nazal hazal Hashem. We made a relationship, a hekesh between Naziris and what? And Nedarim. And just like Naziris, there's a yad Naziris, so to Nedarim, there is a yad Nedarim. We continue to make the hekesh in the other direction. Just like there's a din of Bal Yachel and Bal Ta'acher, there's a din of profaning your neder and a din of delaying your neder. So too, there's a din by Naziris of delay, of being Yachel, going into profaning your Naziris and being Ma'achi Naziris. So the pasuk says in Parshas Kiseitze, this is the parsha of Nidrei Kochim, fellas. It says, Kisida neder Hashem Elokecha. If a person makes a neder to Hashem, meaning to bring karbanos, do not be delayed in bringing that carbon. Hashem will seek it from you. That's the Isser of Baal Ta'acher. And we see that Baal Ta'acher is, again, we saw the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. It's usually 3 regalim. The machlokas is that they have to be in order, or starting from Pesach. That's the machlokas, but it could be either 2 or 3, 4 or 5. The bottom line is you have 3 regalim to go ahead and make up a neder that you bring. Now Naziris is a neder, and we say there's such a thing of Baal Ta'ach and Naziris. So the beginning of the Gemara, guys, is going to grapple. How do you ever have a case of Baal Ta'achad and Naziris? In other words, once you say you're a Nazir, you're a Nazir. It's like this. Bishleim, if you can say you're going to bring a carbon, the Maisa of Hava, it's possible to delay the Maisa of bringing. But the Chalos of Naziris, becoming a Nazir, is instantaneous when you go ahead and Baitzi Svatsecha. So how do you have a case of Baal Ta'achad and Naziris? Right? It's very, very fascinating. So this is the Sugya. We're beginning on Gimel Amid Beis. We're beginning on Gimel Amid Beis. Okay, so let's begin. Amamar. Let's begin a little bit. Amamar, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 lines down. Amamar, going back over Brisa. Uman Nedarim over Bal Yachel, Ubal Ta'acher. Nedarim you over on Bal Yachel, profaning it, Ubal Ta'acher, and delaying. Bishleim Bal Yachel, then Nedarim Mishkachas, not going to Amakikas, Uwaichav Layachla. You're going to say you're going to eat it and you don't eat it. Over Mishum Bal Yachel. So we did this the other day. This is Bal Yachel. Kim the Omar Reini Nazir, Hayalei Nazir, Achol Kam Later Bal Yachel, Shasa Kam Later Bal Yishter. In other words, the Gemara's kash is, how can you be over Bal Yachel alone? Right? You're going to be over 2 things. You're going to be over on being about, also in addition to Bal Yachel, eating and drinking. Amarava Lavala B'Shnayim, 2 things. Okay, now here's what we're up to. Bal Ta'achad and Naziris. How do you find a delay in Naziris? Why? What's the Gemara's kasha? Kivin the Amar Hareini Nazir. Since a person expresses, I am a Nazir, Havilei Nazir. As soon as he expresses it, he's a Nazir. Achol, if he eats grapes, come leva bal yochal. Right? What are you going to say? When he says, I hate Nazir, when I want to, I'll become a Nazir. In other words, you're not over on. I'm not becoming a Nazir right away. I expressed I will become a Nazir when I want to be. Good. In other words, when I want to become a Nazir, I'll become a Nazir. So there is no Baal Ta'acher. In other words, if you say I'm a Nazir, you're a Nazir right away. And if you say I'll be a Nazir whenever I want to, the clock never stops ticking because you'll never want to be a Nazir. So the clock never stops ticking. So Fred the Gemara Akasha, how do you have the case of going ahead and delaying your Naziris? Right? How do you find such a case? Guys, you good? And for the Gemara, I'll tell you what the case is. Amar Rava, says Rava, Kigoin, the Amar, Leipata mina oilam, I won't leave this world, Ad she'ei nazir. I won't leave this world until I'm a nazir. The minahi shaita havile nazir. That time when he says, I won't leave this world till I'm a nazir, immediately is a nazir. Why? Why is that? A person says to his wife, he's a kohen, she's not a kohen. The only reason she eats truma, she's married to him, gives her a get and says, this is a get 1 hour before I die. Asur lecha b'truma miyad. She's asked to eat truma immediately. Almo, we see, Amrinon, kol shaita b'shaita, any possible moment, maybe he'll die. So therefore, you can't go ahead and eat truma, because maybe you will be divorced, and as a not married to me anymore, you can't eat truma. Hachanami here too, la'alta havi nazir, Damrinon, dilma hashtamais. Maybe what you're going to go ahead, Mad, and die. Now, why is this bal ta'acher? L'chayra, so you should be a nazir right away, right? L'chayra, you should be a nazir right away. In other words, what am I saying? I'm saying that when sometime in my lifetime, I'm going to be a nazir. Since you don't know how long your lifetime is, so where's the bal ta'acher? So in fact, Tosfos learns that this is the end of the kasha, and the first teretz is Rav Acha bar Yaakov. In other words, this is not part. No, this doesn't work. This Tosfos learns this doesn't work. Why? Because again, there'll be a chalos of Naziris right away, and there's no bal ta'acher. The Ran doesn't. Let's see the Ran inside. A little bit of the Ran inside. Which line do I want to say? Count up from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up. Umitaritz Rav at the end of the line. Umitaritz Rav. I don't know where Art Scroll has it. 1 second. Let me get an Art Scroll for the. Well, now here's Rabbi's teretz to the kasha. How do you find bal ta'acher in Naziris? What does Rabbi say, guys? Again, going over it again. Rabbi says when you say sometimes in my life I'll be a nazir, and that's the teretz. So now says the Ran. Umitaritz Rava, Kigoin the Amar loy efta min ha'olam ad she'ei nazir. Ubechi gavna min hahi shaita kam lei b'bal ta'acher. Immediately he's over bal ta'acher. Immediately. Ki dechashinon be'oimel ishtoi kloimar koyin oimel ishtoi to what before get an hour before I die. That's sur lecha b'truma miyad mishum chashasha demisa. Maybe he'll die. It's not that they're comparable totally. The ilu hasam by get if she eats and she doesn't die, and he doesn't die, she's not over the issa. It's not pshat you're a nazir. Immediately you're over bal ta'acher. The kimat shehisna v'amar le'efta min ha'olam. Since he said, I won't leave this world, mashma d'hachi kamar. Here's what he's saying, guys. Harei alai limres naziris. It's upon me to count naziris be'inyan in a way shlo yehei chashash b'dava, that there's no suspicion whatsoever. She'ashalem nazirasi koidim she'efta min ha'olam. I have to count my naziris in a way that there's not a possibility that I won't fulfill it before I die. Mishum after lishna le'mashma da'hei nazir me'ata. Even though the lashon is not mashma that he should be a nazir right now. It gets over bal ta'acher immediately. In other words, that's the key. I have to count naziris in a way that there shouldn't be a possibility that I won't be able to go ahead and fulfill my naziris. So the Ran is saying a lumdus over here that this is a teretz. Says the Ran the following: this guy is saying, you know what? I have to fulfill a naziris. I have to fulfill a naziris before I die. As soon as he says that, he's over on bal ta'acher. No, it's not pshat he can begin a naziris and make it, right? It says it's upon him, right? There should not be a suspicion that in my lifetime I won't be able to go ahead and do it. So even though it's not mashmi becomes a lashon right away, it's over. The okay. In other words, you don't even get gimel with golem, right? So it's fascinating. He's saying a svara it's a deeper svara. He's saying one more time, Harei alai limnais naziris be'inin in a way that there's not a possibility there's not a possibility that I should fulfill my naziris before I leave this world. So I guess since you don't know when you're going to die, you can't possibly fulfill it. And this is what he seems to say. If you look at the end of the Ran on Daf Dalid, on the left side, he says, Kach nerali, ubezeh yitzasi yedei chayvasi mikol masha amamu harishonim balachazu. And with this, says the Ran, I'm yotzim ma'chiyah, but all that all rishonim that are dingzik with this whole sugya. Again, Tosfos learns this is a kasha. It's not a teretz. It's part of the kasha. The Ran seems to say that since he doesn't know when he's going to die, he's over on Baal Ta'achar immediately. I have to go over it. I'm not exactly clear. He seems to be saying he's over immediately on Baal Ta'achar. That's what he seems to be saying.
Is this like?
In other words, since there's no guarantee he's going to finish this Naziris before he's going to die, he's over Baal Ta'achar immediately. That's what the Ran says. Again, the Ran is the Ran is geschmack in the Gemara, guys. Why? Because it's Rava Amar is a teretz. The way Tosfos is learning, it's part of the kasha. Rava Amar is a teretz. Good. So according to the Ran, you're getting a teretz. You know why you're over in Baal Ta'achar? Because since you said I have to be before I leave this world, I have to be a complete nazir. You don't know when you can leave the world. Right away, you're over in Baal Ta'achar. Now, this is predicated upon that you don't say Baal Ta'achar Gimel Regalim by Naziris. In other words, my Rebbe declares the following. My Rebbe Zatzal. We see that Baal Ta'achar is a very unique din. You need a limud for each and every one. There's Gemara in Daf Yomi and Rosh Hashanah that goes through different places where Baal Ta'achar. In other words, you don't automatically say just because it's a neder, it's Baal Ta'achar. Or why would you need a special limud by Naziris? If Naziris is Al Yidei Neder, if you can tell me every neder is Baal Ta'achar, you wouldn't need a special limud by Naziris. The fact that you need a special limud by Naziris shows that what? That you don't automatically say there's a din of Baal Ta'achar. Good? So now that there's a din of Baal Ta'achar, does it have the din of Gimel Regalim or not? Says the Ran, clearly not. Because when are you over Baal Ta'achar? Immediately. And that's what the Ran goes on to continue until he comes and says, okay, so we have two derachim. Let's go through the sugya so far, what we saw so far. We saw a hekesh between Nedarim and Naziris. Just like Nedarim has Baal Ta'achar, Naziris has Baal Ta'achar. The point of my Rabbi, you needed a limit for Baal Ta'achar, for Naziris. We don't say Stam a Memetzinu from Nedarim. Next. How's it possible Baal Ta'achar? If you say it immediately, you're over immediately. If you say when I get around to it, then there's no clock ticking that you get around to it. So says Rava a teretz. You said I will become a nazir before I leave this world. Says Rava, says the Tosfos. So still it's not chal. So therefore it's part of the kasha. Says the Ran, no. Says the Ran that once he said I'll become a nazir before I leave the world, the clock struck already. Why the clock struck? Why the clock struck? Because I made up a word. Because there's no guarantee you'll be able to fulfill this Naziris since you don't know when you're going to die. So you're over Baal Ta'achar immediately. Says the Ran. That's the lumdus over here, guys. You got it? There's no guarantee I'm going to fulfill this. Because why? Because I don't know when I'm going to die.
Blaze, I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't know any more than that. So
no, but let me just ask what my problem is. If anybody declares that I'm a Nazir now, he doesn't know whether he'll complete it or not. So why is he about right away?
The difference is it was unconditionally. It was unconditionally. If you make yourself a Nazir, so you're a Nazir right now. There's no question. And over here, he says, I will complete my Naziris before I die. So in other words, when you make a Kabbalah of a Naziris Me'asha, you're not making Kabbalah to complete a Naziris, you're making Kabbalah to become a Nazir. Over here, you're making a Kabbalah to complete a Naziris.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay, Baruch Hashem.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, now, another teretz, Daf Daled Amud Aleph. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Omer Kigon, let's see, the Nazir, change the gears, guys, very important. The Nazir, V'hu b'beis hakfaris. he's a Nazir, and he's in the Beis HaKfaris. Now, if he's in a Beis HaKfaris, we know a Nazir, there's certain halachas, and one of them, he can't be Mitamal Amesim. A Nazir can't be Mitamal Amesim. He's a Nazir in the Beis HaKfaris, and he has to get out of there. He has to get out of the Beis HaKfaris. Now, there's a Amanda Amar, Machloikas to Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in the third parak of Naziris, that if he has a Kabbalah of Nazir, if he's a Nazir in Beis HaKfaris and he eats or drinks wine, right? Eats or grapes or drinks wine, right? He would get Malchus because the Naziris is Chal. And Reish Lakish says, no, it can't be Chal because he's in a state of Tumah. So now, Rav Achba Yaakov going, the Nazir who Beis HaKfaris, that he's a Nazir in the Beis HaKfaris, and the Baal Ta'ach would be is getting out of the cemetery. You're delaying the Naziris by staying in the cemetery. This is good according to Mandiyama, Naziris, the Alta, that Naziris is not Chal. Very good. So you're delaying the Naziris by staying in the cemetery. Reish Lakish. But like Rabbi Yochanan, that is Chal right away, even in the Beis HaKfaris. So mi ikabal ta'acher. So that's one kasha. So my guy is Kabbalah's Naziris in the cemetery. You know, the clock doesn't start ticking till you get out. You're delaying getting out. That works. That's Baal Ta'acher. However, that only works according to Reish Lakish. It doesn't work with Rabbi Yochanan because Rabbi Yochanan, you are an Ezra already. So the clock's strict already, right? You're going big. Going forward. V'oid ha'amamar Ravashi chayil Naziris oleh me'alta. Even Rabbi Yochanan says it's chal. I mean, even Reish Lakish says it's chal right away. Even Reish Lakish says it's chal right away. So there's no Baal Ta'acher on the Kabbalah. What's the machloikis? The chi pligi Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan le'inyan Malchus pligi. That Reish Lakish says you don't get Malchus. So in other words, everyone holds you're a Nazir right away. The Kabbalah is chal. What does it mean that until you leave the cemetery, the isser of eating wine and drinking wine is delayed according to Reish Lakish? But the Kabbalah says this wasn't delayed, so there's no Baal Ta'acher. So two problems with the teretz of Rav Achba Yaakov. I feel hachi come le bebal ta'acher mishum to come a'acher naziris the Taira. Guess what? It's true you're a Nazir, but by not leaving, right, you are impeding the naziris b'Taira. Fellas, we're going to see Bezim Hashem. There's a Masechta that follows the Nedarim called Nazir, and we're going to see when a Nazir becomes Tameh, it overrides the days of Naziris that he counted. He has to bring Karbanis, like Shem, and we're going to bring in a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so therefore you would be delaying. He's Tameh. This Naziris that he's saying now is going to be overridden. So you're delaying the Kabbalah of that new Naziris, the Naziris B'Taira. So that's two terutzim. Okay, so far. Freddik Marakasha. Where's the Shazit Shaykh Baal Ta'ach and the Naziris? Mimanam Shach. You're either right away or you're not. And for the Gemara, the Lumdus of the Ran, that you went ahead and based in Rava, you said, I won't finish in the Naziris till I leave this world. And therefore, right away, you're about Ta'ach because you never know when you can leave the world. Second teretz of Rabbi Achba Yaakov, there's a Nazir in the cemetery. A Nazir in the cemetery, you become a Nazir right away. The Baal Ta'acher is that you're impeding the Naziris of Taira. Ravashi, Hoil V'chein, since it's so that you're right, you're Makabal Naziris in the cemetery, you're a Nazir. V'chein Nazir shetime atzmai b'mezid, oiv mishum Baal Ta'acher the Naziris in Taira. Let's say if that's the case, a Nazir is matam himself on purpose, right? And now it overrides his Naziris. He's also, in other words, this is a side point. Based upon this teretz, we can extrapolate a side point. Usually a regular Nazir who goes ahead and becomes Tameh is b'ma'ache his Naziris b'Taira. V'chein Nazir shetime atzmei b'mezid. Or even mishum Baal Ta'acher, the Naziris Taira, of Naziris Taira. Okay, that's two terutzim. A third teretz, Rav Achba Breda Rav Ika Amar, Oivim b'Baal Ta'acher tigal lachtoi. You can be over on Baal Ta'acher of what? Of taking a haircut. You can be over on Baal Ta'acher what? Of taking a haircut. One of the things a Nazir has to do, and is what? Is take a haircut. After the Naziris is finished, he brings two kabbanis. He brings an oila, a chatas, and a shlamim. He takes his hair. They cut his hair. One of the four chambers in the Ezras Noshim was where they cut his hair, and they would cook the zroya b'shela, the right front foot of the shlamim, and they would go ahead and put the hair underneath that pot. So in this, now this is not speaking the case of the cemetery, I don't think. It's just I'm speaking azoi, right? That he's delaying the haircut. So it's shaykh bal ta'acher by delaying the haircut. And in other words, there's a machlokes in the Gemara whether taking the haircut allows him to go back to regular society or not. In other words, taking the haircut, can he go back to regular life now? Can he go back to drinking wine, grapes, being v'tamal mesim, or not? So you don't need to tell me the Madiyama Tiglachas is ma'akev, going back to reality, right? But even according to Madiyama, that taking a haircut is not ma'akev, and you will be able to drink wine and v'tamal mesim. Mitzviki luach miha loy mekaima. He's not mekayim. There's a mitzvah of giluach. There's a mitzvah of taking a haircut. He won't be able to be mekayim that mitzvah. So now 3 terutzim, teretz of Rava, teretz of Rav Akav Yaakov, and now the next teretz is it's shaykh bal tachan naziris, guys, not on the Kabbalah of naziris, not on the naziris b'taira, but it's even shaykh bal tachan by delaying of the mitzvah by not taking a haircut. Okay. Next, Mazutra Bered Rav Mari Amar, over bal tachan kabanoisav. He's over on what? On bal tachar of his kabbanas. He's over what? On bal tachar's kabbanas. And according to this one, in other words, the nazir has to bring 3 kabbanas. What happens if he doesn't? Be over bal tachar. Now, according to this, the Ran is Maida, you get 3 regalim. The Ran, who we pointed out initially, who said that the bal tachar of the Naziris is chal miyad, when what? He says, I won't leave the world until I fulfill it, would be Maida. If he's bal ta'acher on the kabbanis, it would be what? 3 regalim. It would be 3 regalim. Umin says the okay now. Okay, so now we have Trutzim. Again, Hekish, guys, let's begin. Remember this? Friday, Hekish. We go 2 ways, the Yad Naziris to Nedarim, bal ta'acher to Naziris. How's the Shai bal ta'acher Naziris? Rabbi's teretz where he said, I won't leave this world till I become a Nazir. Rav Akav Yaakov's teretz is in the cemetery and he's delaying bal ta'acher of Tyra. Rav Akav Breder of Ika's teretz is on the haircut, and we have Mazutris on the kabbanis. We have 4 different teretzim on how to answer up. But what's our source, guys? What's our source of bal ta'acher? It's the hekish to Nedarim. It's the hekish to Nedarim. Guys, good? Everything should be clear now. I think we got a rice. We got the Ran's Lamdish Teretz rice, and basically we have the mechanics of the Sugya rice. Now, what about this? Sefredim Arakasha, Umin Hachanafka. Do you learn Bal Ta'acha the Naziris from the Hekish to what? To Nedarim? Mehasam Nafka. The pasuk we just quoted, Ki Darish Yidrashenu. Hashem will seek. But again, we said that the pasuk, the pasuk that we began to share with, which of course I didn't keep over here, in Chav Gimel, in Parshas Kiseitze, Perek Chav Gimel, pasuk Chav Beis. You see the neder Hashem lekecha leisachal l'shalmoi. You make a neder, a carbon to Hashem, do not be delayed in paying it up. Ki darashid Rashenu Hashem lekecha meimach. Hashem will seek it from you. So now, what does that mean? Ki darashid Rashenu. What's happening over here? Ki darashid Rashenu. Let's see Rashi. Let's see the Gemara. Hidarsha Rishena, Elu Chatas Vashamois, right? These refer to Chatas and Hashamois. Now, a Chatas and an Asham are kabbanis that you are Nedarim and not Nedarim. Fellas, if you want to bring a carbon, what 2 kabbanis can you bring? You can either bring an Oyla or a Shlamim. Fellas, listen up. Outside, look at me. You can either bring an Oyla or a Shlamim. The way you bring it is al yidei neder. You make a neder harei olai or nedava harei zu. So if you look at the pasuk, where is it shaykh bal ta'acher? Listen to the words. Ki sidor neder Hashem elokecha. Let's put in words now. If a man says he's going to bring an oiler or a shlamim, leisa'acher l'shalmoi, he shouldn't go ahead and be delayed in bringing that oiler shlamim. Ki darashid rashenu, he will seek, even if it's not a neder or a nedava. Even if it's a chatas or an asham, which comes about as a result of your aveira, a chatas usually is associated with a chi of a karis, and an asham, there are 5 ashamis you can possibly bring, right? So therefore, these are kabbanis that are chiyuvim. They're mandatory kabbanis. So maybe there's no din about tacha by them because the pasuk again, Rosh Yeshiva's hezbollah geschmack, guys. You only have a din about tacha when state often there's a din about tacha. We see that from the Ziris. Unless you tell me there's a din about tacha, it's not a din about tacha. There's a Rishalmi. It's shayach about tacha by mila. If you delay a mila, it's mamish in the beginning of Masechet Rosh Hashanah. You see that it's a unique din. So here's the kasha. How do you know? Even though it's kabbanis, it's the world of kabbanis. How do you know this is shayach by a chatos menasham? And the answer is kidarash rashena. Good. So very geschmack. Guys, a nazir brings the carbon chatos, an oila chatos and shlamim. And if he's tamei, he brings the carbon asham. So what's the kasha? Why do I need the hekesh to Nedarim to tell me there's a din about ta'acher when I have an off and a pasik that's meramis to it? The pasik of Baal ta'acher itself. I will seek an asham and a chatas, which are both shayach by Naziris. So I don't need the hekesh to Nedarim. I have the off and a pasik to teach me that. That's what the Gemara is saying now. Says the Gemara one more time. You learn it from the hekesh. We learn it from the pasuk of Naziris itself, of the Nedarim itself. A person that what? Ki sida ned Hashem lokecha leisachel shalmoi ki darish rashenu elechatas rashamais. And for the Gemara, I'll tell you why you need the hekesh. I would say chidushu shechitsh Torah. By Naziris, there's a chiddush. Chiddush Torah by Nazir, right? So since there's a chiddush by Nazir, I would say you're not about tacher. In other words, you're right. A regular chatos and a regular asham, you're right. There's a din about tacher from kidarish rashena. But by Naziris, since there's a kula of chiddush by Naziris, I say since there's a kula by Naziris, in the chiddush, which we'll see in a second, who had din there's a kula le'inyan what? Le'inyan bal ta'acher. Therefore, I need the hekesh to tell me no, there's no kula. What's the kula? Ma chiddush ilema delay matfes le'chatas nazir ben neder. Guys, so it says the following: I want to bring a chatas nazir. Guy says, listen. He's a regular Joe. He's sitting in the bleachers in Yankee Stadium. They're losing badly. There's nothing better to do. And what does he say? I want to bring a chatas nazir. That's what he says. I want to bring a chatas nazir. Good. What's the din? Right? Doesn't help. Right? It doesn't help. Read the Gemara, and that's the chiddush. And Memela, since it's not chal over there, who adin bal tacher. Read the Gemara. Hari chatas chelev she'en matfisa beneder for over bal tacher. What's the guys? He didn't do an avera. Guys, chatas chelev is stam chatas is called a chatas chelev. You bring a chatas by nisakaris. If you eat chelev is nisakaris. It's called a chatas chelev. The Rosh over here brings something fascinating. It was common to have chelev in the house because they would go ahead and trade in the meat. So therefore, it's very gan shayach to be in nisakaris. A person accidentally, again, you bring a chatas accidentally. Since the chelev is around, the shayach accidentally to bring what? The carbon chatas. Good. So that's a very interesting rush. So Mamela, if a person would say he's squeaky clean, he's sitting in stands of City Field, and he says, I want to bring a chatas chelev. Good. Guess what? You can't bring that either. So how can you tell me that's the chiddush by chatas nazir? Chatas chelev also. Ella, you're right. That can't be the chiddush of nazir. There must be another chiddush. Ella, my chiddush, sal kadeit. I mean, I would have thought. Hoyel ve'im amar harveni nazir. Afilu min hachartzin. A guy says, I'm not complete Naziris. I'm not a Kabbalah complete Naziris. I don't say I want to be, I don't want to see, I'm not a Nazir from Mason. I'm not a Nazir from haircut. I just want to be from wine derivatives. Okay? What's the halacha? Have a Nazir, l'chol, he's a Nazir for everything. So, okay? So in other words, what's the chiddush? Even though he didn't make a complete Kabbalah, nonetheless, he's a Nazir. Even if he didn't make a complete Kabbalah, nonetheless, he's a Nazir. So therefore, you would have thought that what? You would have thought that he doesn't have to bring, we don't say Baal Tacher either. There's a problem with this, guys. This seems to be a chumrah, not a kula. Not being going to Baal Tacher is a kula, correct? Every other carbon is over on Baal Ta'acher. Here I would say not. Why would I say not? Because since I find a Chiddush, a Kula by Naziris, I would have said not, if not for the Hekesh to Nedarim. So what's your Kula by Naziris? That if you say I'm a Nazir from grapes, I'm a Nazir completely, that's a Chumrah, that's not a Kula. That's a reason to be over on Baal Ta'acher, not a reason not to be over on Baal Ta'acher. It doesn't make any sense. Says the Gemara. Very good. Very good. You say I'm a nazir from charts and from grape seeds. L'chol, he's a nazir of everything. El Rei Shlok, Reb Shimon, the Amar. Ein nazir ad sheyasem yikulon. You're not a nazir until you say I'm a nazir from wine, haircuts, and mesim. Ma'ikla meimar. So it's not a good teretz to kuli alma, but oid and sveitens. Hi chiddush l'chumrahu. That chiddush is l'chumrah. Guys, one more time. Bal ta'acher. To say I'm not over is a kula. Every other carbon you're over, here you're not, that you needed a hekesh to Nedarim. Says the Gemara, you know why? Because there's another kula by Naziris. What's the other kula by Naziris? If a guy says, I'm a Nazir from grapes, he's a ganzen Nazir. That's not a kula, that's a chumrah. That's a chumrah. So that's the reason, if anything, to be over about Ta'acher. That teretz doesn't work, so it's still stuck. What's the chiddush of the kula dika chiddush of Naziris that you would have said you're not over in Baal Ta'acher unless you had the hekesh to Nedarim? That's the kash. Ella my chidusheha the salka that I would have thought hayal on the base. I would have said hayal. The im gilach alachas mishlashtan. You bring 3 karbanis, an oila chatas and a shlamim, and usually you would take it after the chatas. And you go ahead, you go ahead. You take Erkan on 1. Yotza Yenaziris. So I would think Leila Avra Bal Ta'acher Kamash Malan. Here's a cooler, guys. Don't say your Naziris is complete after you bring the 3 karbanis. Taking the haircut is the simon that it's over. Even if you take the haircut after you bring 1 karban, you'll be good. So since you see we're makel, the Inyan Wat, your Naziris can be over by taking your haircut after 1 carbon. I would say you're not over in Bal Ta'acher. Kamash Malon, the hekesh to Nedarim that you are even about Ta'acher. And that I wouldn't know from Kiyosh to Rishenu, because that was speaking about a regular chatas. That's one teretz. Biba Yisema, another shot in what's the chiddush of Nazar is that you would think that that you're not over about Ta'acher, that you needed the hekesh to Nedarim. My chiddush seha mishum deloyin mitvasa beneder. Is because why you can't say I can't be mafis in a neder of a nazir. I can't be mafis neder. I can't say this carbon should be a carbon nazir, chatas nazir. I've had a kashila chatas teilev, said chatas teilev. Good. In other words, if you'd say I want to bring a chatas teilev also, and for the Gemara chatas teilev kaasila kapara. What's the purpose of chatas teilev? To mechaper for an aveira that carries with an isakaris. You have masechta creases, 36 creases, right? So you have a bunch of masechta things that are chayiv karis. So that's for a kapara. Nazir l'mayasya. Why does a nazir come for? It doesn't come for anything. So therefore, I'd say you're not over Baal Ta'acher, kamashman you are. In other words, guys, there's a big distinction in the chatas of a nazir and the chatas of the chatas of a nazir and the chatas of a chalev. Chatas of a chalev, you mamish did an avera. You need a kapara. You really chayiv karis since it's a b'shogeg ginad. So there's no svara to say you shouldn't be over Baal Ta'acher, even though you can't be mafis and say it's upon me to bring chatas chalev. Mashenki in a chatas nazir, you don't bring it for an avera. You're not bringing a chatas nazir for avera. So since you're not bringing a chatas nazir for avera, right? You're not bringing a chatas nazir for avera. So therefore, what? You're not going to be over on Baal Ta'acher, Kamash Malon, that you are. Yeah,
there is a semi-avera because you
are. It doesn't seem to do the job. I know that you Torah asks everything upon you, and now you're asking more. Okay, that doesn't seem to be. That's the mitzvah ba'alma. I'll show you. I thought of that, and I'll show you the teretz to it in a second. Okay, very good. Now, Freding Marakasha, Barichatas Yoledes Delay Asila Kapara. The chatas of a Yoledes is not both for kapara. So Rabbi Avi is going to say, what are you talking about? The woman went ahead and she swore she's never going to be with her husband again, right? Okay, so take a look at the Ran on the bottom. Go back to Daf Dalin Amid Aleph. Daf Dalin Amid Aleph. Barichatas Yoledes Delay Asila Kapara. 2 lines from the bottom. Va'afilu Reb Shimon the Amar beperek hamapeles. The yoledis chaytasi. A yoledis is a sinner. Why? The b'shash shekairas, when she's in the birth pangs, the yoledes chayfetzes, she jumps, v'nishbas, and she swears, she'll never go back to living with her husband. So therefore, frek tais daran your kasha. In other words, what are you telling me that there is an averis associated with yoledes? So no, ikar korban early ba'al chet. The ikar korban is not common on chet. So yafilu yodas ba'atzma, even if she knows from herself, she'll hear hero bedava klum maybe a korban. Even if she didn't think anything, she's still bringing a korban. In other words, it's a mitzvah type of thing, but it's not. Your mamash didn't do an avera. You're big. In other words, you have to have a remes to it, but it's not. So the bottom line is so we have a kasha. Your teretz is that you would think there's no baal ta'acher by the korban of a nazir because there's no chatas associated with it. I chatas chaylev, that's a kapara. I yoledes, now here's the kasha. A yoledes is similar to what in the nazir. They're really not doing an avera yet. We know there's a din of baal ta'acher by yoledes. Says the Gemara, not in 1 second. 1 second. No. Says the Gemara, hachi by the yoledes kosharya lemechle b'kachim. That goes ahead what? And it's permitted her to go ahead and eat kachim. If you take a look at the Ram, kosharya lemechilas kachim k'dichsiv the chipur le'akayim b'tahera ba'afilas kachim mitzvahi eating kachim. She's mechusik kippurim. Ki going achilas psachim the ishanami mechayva. Says Tosfos. Says the Ran very geschmack that a woman she would be over baal ta'acher. Why would she be over baal ta'acher? Because she has to eat kachim. The only way she can eat kachim is to get a kapara with bringing a chatas. Until she brings a chatas, she can't eat kachim. She's mechusa kippurim. She's missing her kapara, her chatas. So therefore, it's not similar to a nazir. Nazir, it seems, is not. A nazir is not mechusa kippurim. Guys, we spoke this out many times. Mechusa kippurim is someone who has tumah that's yotzim from the body, a mitzoira, a zav, a yoledes. Those are mechusa kippurim. Even if the nazir is not has to be a chatas, is not mechusa kippurim. He's again, according to this, he goes ahead. He can always eat kachim. Even as a nazir, he can eat kachim. Right, but once he takes the haircut, it's finished. His chat is nam akif. So we have mahalach. Okay, so let's go through the mahalach. What did we just say? Again, you have to keep cheshbon. The Gemara wants to know why did we learn from Kidarshid Roshena? Why didn't we learn from there the halacha of just like over there it says chatas vashomas is shayach bal ta'acher. Why do we need the hekesh? And for the Gemara, there's a chiddush by nazir that I would have said you're over bal ta'acher. The Gemara is grappling. Exactly is the chiddush by nazir? And we're concluding the chiddush by nazir is that one pshat, since you could take a haircut after one of the kabbanis. And second pshat is that what? Since you can't go ahead and be mafis beneder. Right? You can't say that this should be a korban nazir. I by chatas you can't. That's for kapara. I yoledes you can't either. Yoledes is mechusa kippurim. So right now we'll hold 2 chidushim, 1 teretz. Teretz is there's a chiddush that you be mekel. Since you be mekel, you'd say there's no bal ta'acher unless you have the hekesh to nedarim. Very good. And we just explained what chedushim, either the fact that it's the fact that the haircut after one, or the fact that it's not for any reason, any other reason. Yoledes, there is a reason. Amamar, going back over the Bryce, Amamar, back to the hekesh. The father can be made for as long as before she's married, she's a naira, before she's a bogeres, he can be made for nedarim. Bitoy. Ubal made for nidre ishtay. If it's ini nefesh, the baal can go ahead and be made for the nedarim of the wife. Af naziris, av made for naziris bitoy. Ubal made for naziris ishtay. Fredmi lamalei hakesha. Why do we need a hekesh? Teshi b'memetzinum in nedarim. Why don't you just learn a memetzinum? Memetzinum is just like we find by nedarim. You could do this. So to naziris, which is a neder, you can do this. Why do you need a hekesh? In other words, usually there's a kasha. There's a kasha that you need the strength of a hekesh to circumvent the kasha. It says madil magabi nedarim hu de. Maybe by nedarim, the reason can be made for mishum delay islay kitsusa. There's no end to a neder. Once you make a neder, it's ongoing, and therefore you'd say, you know why you take it off? Because who wants to be stuck with a neder your whole life, guys? You make a neder. This chair is us. You ain't sitting in that chair forever. So she makes a neder. You have to take it off. Again, you don't want to be nichshel in Nedarim. You don't want her around. We saw Gemara that people make Nedarim, the wife doesn't keep it, the wife dies. It's not a good thing, right? So I would say there, the Torah went ahead and put an eitzah in place to go ahead and deal with the neder, which is what? Which is hafara. Mashenkin Naziris hasn't. Stam Naziris is shleishim yom. Kodesh yiyah. Yiyah is 15 years. Is 30, right? You'd hear 15 and 15. So I'd say since that has an end in sight, maybe there is no parsha of hafara. The mela, you needed the hekesh to tell me there is a parsha of hafara. Says the Gemara. So I would say Nedarim is like Ketsusa. Avagam Naziris is like Ketsusa by Naziris with this and then the site. The Stam Naziris Lamid Yoim. A Maloi. I would say what? You don't have hafara. Kamashmal and the hekesh that in fact there is a din of hafara. Okay, Bez Hashem, share will be tomorrow morning. We'll see what time. Thanks everyone for listening.